Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. Tonight is Monday, June 10th, 2013, and the show broadcasted live from Richmond, Virginia. Show starts with a recap. The McMahon family drama with Stephanie, Vince, and Triple H from last week. After that, Triple H comes out, and he's dressed to wrestle. He's got his trunks on, his wrist taped, all that shit. He comes down, he does his full entrance, he gets in the ring, and he's ready to go. Now out comes Curtis Axel. They start having their match, just like Triple H promised. And of course, Triple H is aggressive early on. He's pissed about, having the match stopped because he collapsed like a bitch and all this other shit, whatever. So they're going with the match, and then Vince's music starts playing. And he comes out, and the match is still kind of going on in the ring. Triple H is like, what the hell are you doing, Vince goes over to he goes over to Roberts, the ring announcer, and he tells him, well, first of all, he goes to the timekeeper and has him ring the bell. And I noticed that the bell sounded weird. I don't know if that really had any bearing on anything, but I just noticed it sounded weird. But he has the bell rung, and then he tells Roberts to say something, and Roberts goes, this match, he says, the winner of this match by result of a disqualification, Curtis Axel. Vince starts leaving. So, like Montreal Screwjob, I don't get this. He just says, oh yeah, the match is over. Axel wins by DQ. He starts leaving. But Triple H jumps out of the ring, and he goes over to Roberts, and he tells him, yada yada, say this. Roberts goes, the match is, or by order of the COO, the match is being restarted. And so Tripp gets back in the ring, and he starts trying to wrestle with Axel some more, and yada yada. Vince comes back down, and he goes back over to Roberts again, and tells him yada yada. He has him ring the bell again, and Roberts announces, the winner of this match by forfeit, Curtis Axel. And Vince starts leaving again. Triple H goes over to, he goes back over to Roberts, and he says, you're going to say this again, yada yada. And so Roberts announces, by order of the COO, this match will be restarted as a 60-minute Iron Man match. Tripp gets back in the ring and starts wrestling with Axel some more. Vince comes back down, grabs the microphone away from Roberts, and says, you're going to need a new microphone and you're going to need a new ring bell. Vince takes the microphone and the ring bell and splits. He leaves. And so the match is... no, wait. He actually says... he tells Axel, he says, I just need you to leave. Axel, you've won twice. You just leave. Axel and Heyman leave and yada yada. And then he says, you're going to need a new microphone and a new bell because, I'm taking it with me. So, whatever. Triple H is left in the middle of the ring dumbfounded, like, what in the fuck? And they're about to cut to commercial, and they say, Kane is going to go against Dean Ambrose up next. And then they cut to commercial. This has got to be the worst opening to Raw that I have seen in a long time, if not ever. And I've been watching Raw since '98. Okay? And I've hardly missed any episodes. I watch Raw every week on Monday, and I hardly ever miss an episode. This has got to be the worst opening to the show I've ever seen. But anyways, we cut back from commercial, and Triple H and Stephanie are backstage in the office, and they're talking. And, Triple H is like, he did that just to humiliate me, and he stepped over the line, and whatever. Or no, they're not backstage in the office. They're just in, one of the hallways or whatever. And Stephanie's practically crying because it looks like Triple H is going to go and beat the hell out of Vince. And she's like, no, don't hurt him. She's on the verge of tears. Or at least she would be if she was a good actress. She's not, so she's not. She's like, don't hurt him, and Triple H says, okay, fine, you go talk to him. This is crap, and I want my match with Axel. Yada yada. They cut back to the ring, and out comes Kane. And then out comes Ambrose, and it's time for the match. There's no bell at the start, because Vince still has it. Apparently, during the very beginning of the match, somebody runs down to the ring with the bell, so they can ring it and start the damn match. Shortly after that, they go to a commercial again. They come back, and Ambrose is in control. Oh yeah, they show Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan on the app. They're backstage watching the match, whatever the fuck. I don't know what exactly happens, but the Shield, Rollins and Reigns come out, and they attack Kane. And so Ambrose is disqualified. So Kane wins by DQ. Randy and Daniel Bryan come out for the save, and they chase off the Shield. So the Shield bails. It was actually a good match from what I saw. Just really getting tired of these crappy, lame DQ or count-out finishes to these matches. It's like, we know that the matches on Raw and SmackDown don't even really matter most of the time, so the least you can do is give us a real finish, a real winner. These DQ finishes and these count-out finishes suck. But anyways, so after the Shield bails, they announce that on the kickoff for the Payback pay-per-view, it's not being called the pre-show anymore for some reason, but it's being called the kickoff. The kickoff is going to feature Sheamus versus Damian Sandow. And this will come back up later, but we'll get to that. After that, the commentators announced that we're going to do some fan voting again for Daniel Bryan's opponent later on, because he's got a match later on with one of the two guys that are left from the Shield, either Rollins or Reigns. And so it's going to do fan voting. You can vote for Rollins or Reigns, and whoever wins goes against Daniel Bryan, and whoever loses is going to go against Randy Orton. So they cut to a commercial, and the voting is supposed to take place during the commercial. They come back, and Jerry Lawler is in the ring, and he goes over the crap, and they cut to the Titantron, and it shows the percentages. Rollins wins. So Rollins is going to be taking on Daniel Bryan later on, and Reigns will be taking on Randy Orton. After that, we get a recap from SmackDown of the match between Daniel Bryan and Randy versus Rollins and Reigns, and the whole thing that happened with Bryan drop-kicking Randy in the teeth and then eating an RKO for it after the match, blah blah blah. We cut backstage. Daniel Bryan, Kane, and Randy are backstage doing more frickin' arguing. It's really getting old at this point, this whole dysfunctional team shit, and Randy being interjected in it. It's just bad. Vicky, who we haven't seen in a while, she interrupts out of nowhere and announces that Daniel Bryan and Randy are going to get a tag team title shot against Rollins and Reigns at Payback. And Randy don't want to. He's like, no. And I can't blame him, because honestly, at this point, the tag titles are kind of below Randy. But, so Randy and Bryan kind of piss off, and Kane's kind of pissed off, because he's not doing anything, apparently. But Vicky comes back up to him, and she says, oh, don't think I forgot about you. You have a U.S. title match against Ambrose at Payback as well. And Kane's like, you know what, I always liked you, and he gives her a big freaking hug out of nowhere. They cut back into the arena, and The Miz comes out. And then they cut to commercial. When we come back, Wade Barrett is on commentary, and him and the commentators talk about Fandango being concussed. Apparently, on SmackDown during that match with that piece of shit Zack Ryder, apparently Fandango suffered a concussion. And this is legit because I heard about it earlier today. So, Johnny's not going to be able to be in the triple threat match for the Intercontinental title, which was supposed to be Fandango, Miz, and Barrett. So the commentators say it's just going to be a one-on-one match, Miz and Barrett. But anyways, as they cut back from commercial, all this is going on, and you can hear Cody Rhodes' music playing, and I'm like, okay, so Miz is going against Rhodes. Whoop-de-doo. They start having the match. It's not all that long. It's not all that good. Miz gets the figure 4 and wins. After the match, Wade wants to attack The Miz. But before he can, Paul Heyman comes out for some reason and says that Vicky Guerrero has asked him to inform everybody that his client, Curtis Axel, will now be the third man in the triple threat for the Intercontinental title. I don't have any idea why. He hasn't even shown any interest in the Intercontinental title. He's been busy trying to keep from getting buried by Triple H and, fighting Sin Cara and all this other bullshit. But they just decided to interject Curtis Axel into the Intercontinental title, and the commentators are quick to bring up, oh, Mr. Perfect was one of the greatest Intercontinental champions from the past. And I'm like, well, you're right, but Curtis Axel ain't anything like his dad. He's a piece of shit. So anyways, Axel comes out and talks. And he can't talk very well, but whatever. And I think the line that he used was, the perfect ending to that match would be me walking out as Intercontinental Champion. Whatever. So, they're getting ready for another commercial. But before they cut to commercial, they're saying, things are about to go bad because guess who's coming back? Mark Henry. If you haven't noticed, he's been missing since his defeat at the hands of Sheamus, the Four Corners match, or the strap match at Extreme Rules. We haven't seen Henry since. Not that I care, I'm just saying, he's been missing, but whatever. Apparently, he's supposed to be coming back next week. And they show a little vignette of him and his Hall of Pain and all that bullshit, whoop-de-doo. And then they cut backstage, and Jericho is walking with his little light bright jacket. And apparently, he's coming up next. They cut to commercial. They come back, and they recap the whole thing from the beginning of the show, Triple H and Vince and them fighting over the match and that stupid horse shit. They cut backstage to the office, and Stephanie is talking to Vince. And I don't remember exactly what they say. They're just talking, Steph is like, you really should apologize and all this crap, and Vince is like, I'm not going to apologize, and blah, and whatever. So we cut back to the arena, and out comes Jericho. He comes out and he talks. And he's talking about his match with Punk coming up at Payback, yada yada. And just as he's finishing his promo, Dolph Ziggler's music hits and cuts him off. And Ziggler comes out and starts talking. And he says that... He says that since Jericho was talking about the best in the world, he figured now would be a good time to make his triumphant return from, being concussed and everything. So this is the second guy, well, the first guy we've had concussed in the last few weeks, but the other one being Fandango. But anyways, so he's talking, and then Jericho cuts Ziggler off and starts talking some more, and the basic gist of it is he wants a match with Ziggler. And so Ziggler says, okay, fine, you'll get a match with Big E. So he sends Big E down to fight Jericho. They cut to commercial. They come back. Jericho and Big E is already going on. They fight, and they fight, and they fight. Ziggler jumps on the apron to distract Jericho. And I think Big E was able to make a comeback. He was getting beat up, whatever. But then out of nowhere comes Del Rio and attacks Ziggler. And off of that distraction, because Big E was, of course, distracted by this, Jericho's able to counter, and he hits the code breaker, and he gets the win. So Jericho wins. After that, they show a little thing basically just hyping up the matches later on between the two guys in the Shield, Rollins and Reigns, going against Randy and Daniel Bryan. And then they cut to commercial again. We come back, and Sin Cara's music hits. Don't know why they're using him so much lately, but whatever. I guess they still wanted to keep him fresh in people's minds, even though it doesn't matter. He's not going to do anything anyways. But he comes out, and Zeb Coulter is on commentary for some reason. Apparently Swagger is injured. Don't know how that happened, but whatever. Coulter's on commentary, and he's of course talking how Sin Cara is... he's an immigrant, and they don't even know if he's legal, and blah blah blah. Fucking stupid shit. But out comes Antonio Cesaro. And I'm like, okay, this might actually be a good match. Oh yeah, I also noticed during Sin Cara's entrance, he's wearing his white outfit. And if you don't know, his white outfit is like a curse. Every time he wears it, he seems to get hurt. So, don't know. It didn't happen during the match, so I guess maybe not. But anyways, during the match, Sin Cara's able to do a La Mystica-esque head scissors. And for those of you who don't know, the La Mystica is his finishing move. It's a big spinning, twirling head scissors thing, and he links it into an arm bar. Or that's how it was in Mexico. It would go into a submission. But since he's been in the WWE, they've changed it more into an impact finisher. Whatever. But he's doing the spinning with the head scissors, and it just goes into a regular head scissors instead of the arm bar or even the face plant impact version. And then after that, he's able to hit the DOA, which was Suicide's finisher, but it's like a sunset flip power bomb. And he hits that running from the ropes. He goes up and he spins it, and he nails it pretty good, but only gets a 2 count with that. And then Cesaro's able to counter, and he locks in a headlock, a front, like, chin lock on Sin Cara, and swings him around a couple rotations with it. I just thought that was funny. I'd never really seen anything like that before. After that, Cesaro kind of spins him around and bends him down for the neutralizer. He cinches it up, plants him, and gets the win. Cesaro wins. After that, they're cutting to commercial, or no. Yeah, they're getting ready to cut to a commercial, but they're saying, oh, here's the Wyatt family, and they play another video package for those schmucks. And after that, they also decide to hype up for later on. Cena and Ryback are going to have a face-to-face later on. And then they cut to commercial. They come back, and it's in the general manager's office. Vicky and Brad are plugging Hardee's, these hamburgers. Vicky's plowing her face with one because she's a fat fuck. And Vince comes in, and she's in the middle of eating. Brad tries to tell her, take the fucking food out of your mouth, you look like a cow. And so Vince comes in, and he's pissed because Vicky's acting like a fat cow. And whatever. Vince is pissed about this face-to-face. He doesn't want Ryback and Cena to start fighting each other because one of them could get hurt, and that would screw up the match. And so Vince is saying, you need to think of something. You need to figure out a way to fix this. And Vicky says, oh, well, I could cancel it. And Vince says, you can't cancel it. You promised it. We can't piss off the fans like that. And so Brad kind of cuts in and he says, well, what we could do is we could have lumberjacks around the ring, like their lumberjack match, part of the 3 Stages of Hell thing. And we can have lumberjacks to keep them apart so they don't kill each other. And Vince is like, that's a good idea. So it's looking like Brad is making a power play. He wants that general manager position. And in all honesty, Vicky's not even the general manager anyway. She's only the managing supervisor. And I hate her frickin' guts. We need to get rid of her. So... anyways, they cut back to the ring, the arena, whatever, and Randy's coming out. So it's looking like he's getting ready to go against Roman Reigns. But after Randy comes out, Daniel Bryan's music hits. And I'm like, okay, what is Bryan coming out for? Apparently he's just out to watch Randy's back. I'm like, okay, whatever. They cut to commercial. They come back, and the Shield comes out. It's all 3 of them, but they get about, partway down the stairs, and Ambrose kind of, pats the other 2 on the back and says, I got a coffee to drink or whatever, and he decides to split. So it's just Rollins and Reigns going down to the ring. So it's going to be Reigns versus Orton, but Rollins is there to watch his back. Whatever. So they start having the match, and, I'll be honest, I wasn't paying too much attention because there was something else going on that I was watching on my computer, and I didn't pay attention a lot during the second hour. But, sorry, the E3 press conference kind of distracted me. Not only that, the Sony press conference. So I was a bit distracted by that. But anyways, during this match, Randy was on the top rope, I think, and Reigns cracked him with the Superman punch. He's been doing this Superman punch lately. And, so he hits that, and he knocks Randy off the top rope, and Randy falls out of the ring. And then they cut to commercial. They come back, and Reigns has the upper hand. After a while, I think Randy was making his comeback, and Rollins decides to interfere. He didn't actually hit Randy. He came in, Randy kicks him, and then throws him out of the ring. So the referee doesn't call for the bell, even though this is still blatant interference. Apparently, the new rule is you actually have to hit the guy for it to count as interference. And that being, the person who's interfering has to hit the person that's involved in the match. So, since Rollins never actually hit Randy, he just got kicked in the guts and thrown back out of the ring, it doesn't count. Don't know why. I remember years ago when just jumping into the damn ring would get somebody disqualified as interference. But whatever. So that happens. Bryan interferes, and he actually, let's see, what happened was, Rollins gets thrown out of the ring, and then I think Reigns got thrown out of the ring too, so they're both on the same side of the ring. Bryan jumps in the ring, and he does his little suicide dive, and he clocks both of them. And the referee's like, no, ring the bell, that's a DQ. Or whatever. But the official announcement says it's a no contest, so apparently they both got disqualified. So it's a no contest. But anyways, immediately they decide to start the Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins match, and this was a pretty damn good match. It went for quite a while. There's 1 or 2 commercial breaks in the thing, and we'll get to that. Bryan's aggressive in the early going, and he's aggressive in the early going. Rollins is able to turn it around at some point, and oh yeah, Rollins goes for Bryan's surfboard stretch move that he's been using a lot lately. He's trying to stick it to him. Like all the signature moves that Bryan's been doing, Rollins has been, kind of doing them against him. So he's doing the surfboard, but Bryan gets out of it and gets Rollins into a surfboard of his own. But then he cinches it even tighter. He starts doing the headlock version of it. And then he cinches him down into the Buffalo Sleeper version of it. And shortly after that, they cut to a commercial. They come back, and Rollins is back in control. Bryan makes his comeback, but gets stopped. Rollins goes for an enziguri, but Bryan counters it. He basically, kind of fell back, grabbed Rollins' leg, and rolled over into a half Boston Crab. It looked great when he did it. Rollins is able to get out of it, and he counters. He catches Bryan. I think Bryan went for a Hurricane Rana or something, but Rollins catches him, throws him turnbuckle powerbomb into the corner. And, somehow Rollins wound up out of the ring. Bryan went for the suicide dive again, but Rollins catches him with a forearm shot as Bryan's coming out of the ring, so he catches him with that. And this looked sick. And is countered. They both end up on the top rope, and Bryan goes to give Rollins a super back suplex from the top rope. But Rollins reverses it in midair, lands on top of Bryan, so it ends up like a big crossbody sort of thing. On the outside, I think Reigns tried to get involved. I think Bryan went back to the top rope. Reigns went to knock him off, but Randy swept his legs out from under him, and so he face plants. The two of them end up tussling on the outside. And that was enough to distract Rollins, and Bryan was able to cinch in a small package and get the 3 count. So Bryan was able to win that one. But then after the match, Rollins, pissed because Bryan had to use such a cheap move to beat him, tries to attack Bryan. But Bryan hits the big roundhouse kick, dazes Rollins, he turns around and gets RKO'd by Randy. So that's the end of that bit. They go to another recap of the frickin' opening segment, which sucked. And then they cut backstage, and Kaitlyn is in this beautiful dress. She looks fantastic. She's all dolled up. Kaitlyn's hot. Okay? I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. She's hot. She's got this beautiful dress on with, mesh cleavage. It looks fantastic. But anyways, she's getting ready to go out to the ring and meet her secret admirer, and that's up next. They cut to a commercial again. They come back, and Kaitlyn's in the ring, and she's got a mic, and she says, I'm nervous about this, but whoever you are, come on out. Big E Langston's music hits. And Kaitlyn is stunned. She don't know what the hell to think about this. And I don't think anybody else in the arena knew what the hell to think of it either. So Big E comes out, and he's got slacks on with a nice button-up shirt, and he's carrying this bouquet of flowers. And he comes out, he looks kind of bashful and everything. These secret admirers, they're always kind of bashful, but whatever. And he comes down to the ring finally, and he gets in the ring, and he gets a mic, and he's talking, saying, I think you're beautiful. Ever since I met you, I've wanted you, whatever. And he grabs her around the waist and pulls her in, and then he dips her like he's getting ready to kiss her, and just before he does, he just drops her on her ass. And then AJ's music hits, and out comes AJ. And she's laughing, and it turns out that AJ was behind the whole thing, and I saw this coming from a mile away, honestly. So, she comes out and she's talking. She says, I've had the worst year. I've been, abused by so many guys, whether it was John Cena or Daniel Bryan or CM Punk. And where was my best friend this whole time? Chasing the Divas title. And yada yada. And she's talking more and more, saying, Kaitlyn, you're worthless. You're going to end up back in the trailer park in Texas or wherever the fuck. And it comes to a fever pitch. Kaitlyn slaps AJ. And they start chick fighting, tussling, throwing each other around and whatever. AJ winds up on the outside of the ring. She gets up and she's smiling. She blows this kiss to Caitlyn, and then she turns around and skips away. So yeah, AJ set this whole thing up, and so after that, they play another Wyatt family video, and then they cut to commercial. And when they come back, Damian Sandow comes out. He's in his ring gear, in his robe, and he's ready to go, but he's got a mic, and he talks as he's coming out. And he's talking about, the whole thing with Sheamus, and whatever. He says, I'm going to beat up this other ignoramus, and by this time he's in the ring. And then they hit R-Truth's music, and Truth comes down. We haven't seen him for a while either. This match was decent. Not too many notes from it, other than the fact that Sandow hits a move that looks a lot like the Side Effect, Matt Hardy's Side Effect, but he kind of grabs Truth around the waist and then lifts him up and sits out as he slams Truth down on his back. It looks like the Side Effect, only it's not like the head and neck or the head and arm lock. He cinches him around the waist and slams him. But either way, he hits that and he pins Truth with it. Whatever, Sandow wins. After that, Truth is, getting out of the ring. Sheamus comes out, and he starts talking how, I've got you at the kickoff to Payback, and how fitting it is that it's a kickoff, because I'm going to kick off your head from your body. Really not doing it for me, these Sheamus promos anymore. He's getting old. And I really think it's funny that their next version of Cena is now being relegated to the pre-show of this pay-per-view. Whatever. They cut backstage, and Stephanie is walking through the halls. She goes up to one stagehand and says, I want you to go find Vince and tell him his daughter is looking for him and that it's about business, and to meet in the office. He runs off to do it, and Stephanie continues down the hallway. She comes across another stagehand. She tells him, I want you to go find Triple H, tell him his wife is looking for him, and that it's personal, and to meet in the office. So obviously this is setting up for a confrontation in the office. Oh yes, they cut to a commercial. They come back, and they show the Ryback's Rampage recap thing from SmackDown again. Not the whole thing this time, thank God, because we don't want to waste another 10 fucking minutes. But they play that, and then they show the Lumberjacks coming down to the ring, led by Maddox and Vicky. And after that, they cut to another commercial. They come back, and we're in the office. And Stephanie and Vince and Triple H are there, and they're like, what are you doing here? And Vince is like, what are you doing here? Yada yada. And they start arguing again. Stephanie lets out this horrendous screeching yell. And I'm like, dang, hun, like, easy. My ears can't take that shit. She tells the two of them, you guys are going to work this out. And then she leaves. Vince and Tripp go back and forth. They're talking, whatever. And Vince finally kind of, he says, he starts kind of trying to appeal to Triple H's ego, saying that I want you to be the man around here. To be, the icon and whatever. And I want you to be the guy to lead this company. I don't need you getting hurt or anything jeopardizing that. And so Triple H kind of understands where Vince is coming from. But then Vince says, you know what? I'm sorry about before, so next week I'm going to let you have your match against Curtis Axel. And Triple H, he kind of thinks about it for a second, and he's like, you know what, on second thought, I don't really need the match. You're right, I don't need the match with him and whatever. And they go back and forth some more and whatever. And then Steph breaks back in. And she wants them to hug it out, because they kind of started fighting again. So she wants a group hug. And they hug, whatever. They cut back to the ring, and Cena's coming out. And then you can hear the ambulance siren. Cena's in the ring, the ambulance comes out, Ryback comes out of the ambulance, and he gets up on the stage. And they start talking. And Cena's basically saying, oh, Ryback, you're too scared to get in the ring and face me, and blah, and whatever. And Ryback's, I'm not afraid, I don't really care, and they go back and forth talking and talking and talking, and, finally, I guess Cena had enough of, there not being any fighting involved, because all he knows how to do is fight. He decides to jump out of the ring to go after Ryback, but the Lumberjacks grab him, and they throw his ass back in the ring. They're not going to let it happen. So they're wrestling with Cena, trying to keep him from going after Ryback. Ryback comes running down to the ring, and he gets involved, and there's this big brawl and whatever. Cena and Ryback are going after each other, and finally they get them separated. They pull them apart, and that's the end of the show. So, yeah, that was the end of the show. We end with this really anticlimactic brawl with this stupid shit and really bad promos before, and it's just really getting bad. And that opening of the show with... that opening was terrible. I'm really getting tired of watching this crap every week. The writing is atrocious. The booking is horrible most of the time. We hardly get any good matches. And this was the go-home Raw before the pay-per-view. We have SmackDown and then the pay-per-view this Sunday. Jesus, it's just bad. But anyways, that was Raw. It sucked, essentially. The only good match was Daniel Bryan and Rollins, but it had kind of a lame finish. But the match itself was still pretty damn good. It really sucks that Johnny Fandango has been concussed by that piece of shit Zack Ryder. And that punk-ass bitch had the audacity to do his little Twitter tweets. He said, since Johnny couldn't hang or whatever, maybe I should be put in the match in his place. And I'm thinking, yeah, they're gonna reward the piece of shit that concussed one of our guys with a title shot. That's not how it works, ass clown. You injure somebody, you get punished. You notice that after Swagger concussed Ziggler, he got pretty much kicked out of the title hunt. And now he's injured. They're not going to reward you with jack shit, Ryder. You're one more screw up away from getting fired. Nevertheless, that does it for Raw. For those of you who might be wondering about my TEW playthrough, I did the one episode and then just kind of stopped. I'm still trying to find some music to play so it's not so boring. I also decided to start over with it. So I'm going to have to do another episode where I go over the changes that I made. And yeah, so there's that. That'll be coming sometime soon as I can get the friggin' music to play or find some generic music that I won't get sued for using. But anyways, that will do it for the Wrestling Rant for Raw. Richmond, Virginia. It was June 10th, 2013. This episode of Raw sucked, aside from that one good match. Caitlyn looked fucking hot. Anyways, that's it for Raw. We will see you next time for SmackDown, whenever I can get around to watching it. We will see you then.